What's up, guys? It's Just Not Right here, aka JNR. I have an exciting new MIDI update that you can do for your Pioneer DDJ-1000-SRT to unlock more stems control power. And what do I mean by that? Well, everybody knows that Serato stems has been released for a while now, and on the SRT we are easily able to use pad control over those stems. You just simply change your loop roll or whatever desired set of pad controls that you want to assign to it, and boom, you have it. But you don't really have the full power of it, because sometimes, and I think you know from messing around with stems, when you drop out the instrumentation, the bass line and the drums, and you have that a cappella going on top of the current mix that's coming in, the volume drops a lot. So I always wanted to have more control over my stems. I even looked at the newer controllers to see if I could get that functionality and also maintain some of the functionality that I love about the 1000 SRT. Strangely though, I couldn't find it. I really like the SRT. The only thing that was missing was stem level EQ. I even looked at the Rev 7 and the Rev 5, and their stem level EQ is actually limited to the 3 knobs on the live channel because they're a 2-channel controller. What you could do with the SRT is you could actually take the 3 and 4 channel and use them and use all the knobs on them to assign, to give you the maximum control, where you have control over the vocals, the instrumentation, the bass line, and the drums on separate knobs. I think if you have the Rev 7, you'll know that they combine the bass and the drums on the low end knob of the EQ of the live channel. So what I think is great about this is that I don't have to buy a new controller. I was in the market, I was ready to push the button on buying it until I found a Reddit thread where this guy RDKRL posted a little Instagram story of him. It's basically really sort of short tutorial on how to do it. But I found it a little hard to follow. So I thought I'd do everybody a favor and take the information that he's given me and get into more detail and show you how to do it for yourselves, and to do it in more of a long format video. So if you're ready to deep dive into how to get this done, make sure that you save the video, click like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and get in front of your equipment and try to follow along. So here we go.
How to assign stem level EQ to your spare channels on your DDJ-1000-SRT. And by spare channels, I mean if you're mixing on channel 1s and 2s, you're sacrificing channel 3 and 4 so that you have 4-band stem control on your EQs of the vacant channels. So you can only do this when you're mixing with 2 channels and you're taking the spare channels 3 and 4 and you're assigning them to do what you would normally do in pad mode, but also adding the functionality of volume control. Now you can't assign effects to the spare channel, you can only adjust the gains of the different stems. So what I'm going to assign here is the vocals to the trim knob on channel 3, then the instruments on the highs, on the bass line on mid, and on low I'll assign the drums. Okay, so that's channel 3. That'll affect the stems EQ control for channel 1 in Serato. We'll do that first, and then we'll mirror that for channel 2 and provide the mapping for the stems EQ on channel 4. Okay, so this is what you do first. First, let's load up a song.
Is lost dancing.
Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of vocal there. There's vocal there, right? Let's change that to an 8-bar loop so you can get that more. Okay, so everything's there, right? You got bass line, got drums, and a little bit of vocal. Okay, so that's a good example. I'm also going to double that on the other channel. Okay, we'll stop that first. Okay, so what you need to do now is you got to go to MIDI. We're going to create a new preset. I already have that there, so I'm going to create a new one for this tutorial's sake. So, okay, so what we're doing is stems tutorial. That's the one that we're using. I'm going to go over here, toggle MIDI. Now, every time, it's a pretty repetitive process what we're doing here. We're using the filter button here to create a placeholder MIDI code in the XML file, and we'll rinse and repeat that for several different slots for the stems that we're doing, and I'll explain as we go along. So you're choosing filter here, and as I said, I want to use channel 3's trim knob at the top, so I'm using that right now. I'm triggering that. You can see that that's being activated there. Perfect, that's done. Now I'm going to close MIDI and go back to settings. I'm going to press save, and then I'm going to restore to defaults. So now I go to my music folder, Serato folder, and MIDI, and then go to the XML. So I can see that there, Serato. And there's my stems EQ tutorial. Now what you'll see over here, and it's important to note that you can't use any crappy text edit thing. You got to use a pretty good one. What I'm using here is recommended by the guy who I copied this code from, is BBEDIT or BBEDIT. Okay, so we're seeing the first thing that we did there. This deck filter auto, that's what we did. We basically remapped the filter knob to be assigned to the trim knob of channel 3. Now you can see that channel 3, absolute 7 for that. That's telling us that we've reassigned that to channel 3's trim knob. Now we look for this particular code here, deck filter auto. You're going to keep replacing this with cod father underscore gain, right? And for the trim knob, you know, we are going to assign that to slot 0. Now slot 0 represents the actual stem effect. So this stem effect 0 represents the vocals. Okay, so as I add more, you'll see that we go from 0 to 3, which is 1 0 1 2 3. Oops, that's wrong. And that represents 0 is vocals, 1 is a music instrumentation, 2 is bass line, and 3 is the drums. So what we're going to do here is we're going to leave that slot right here at 0, because that is what we want. We want the top one to be vocals. So I'm going to save that, close it, go back over here, reload that. Okay. Okay, so there it's loaded. I don't know why it took a little longer than usual, but now we're going to go back and check to see if that works. So we're here in play mode. Now, if I hit trim, notice that you'll see my microphone get toggled. So in this mode right here, you can see I'm turning up my knob, and then you can see the vocal disappear. That's the trim knob working, okay? And now we're going to rinse and repeat. So, now what do? MIDI again. Toggle filter. Now I'm going to take the high knob on my EQ on channel 3, and I'm going to toggle that. So that's going to create another placeholder in my MIDI XML. I'm going to go here. I'm going to save. Okay, and now restore to defaults. And then I'm going to open up my XML again. Now you'll see deck filter auto. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just copy this again. Replace. Okay. Now I've only tried this on the DDJ-1000-SRT. I'm not sure if there's any difference in changes, but I'm no expert. So now I'm changing the slot. So now slot 1 represents the instrumentation on channel 1's stems, which is assigned to the high EQ on channel 3. So we can save that now. Close that. Okay, we're going to reload this, and we're going to play that track again. Okay. Now I'm just going to cut the bass out and the drums with the pad mode so that you can see what's happening here. Now I'm using the knobs to remove the music by tweaking my high knob. There you go. Okay. And then take another vocal, bring back the vocal. Okay. Bring back the music. And then using the pads to toggle the bass and drums again. Okay. Perfect. So now we want to do that to the bass line. MIDI filter. Now I'm taking the mid of channel 3, toggling it. You've seen it activated. Perfect. I am going to go back to MIDI, go back to settings. Gonna save that, restore default. Okay, go back to my XML. Alright. So we're looking for deck filter auto deck. Okay, so we're still on channel 3. All of this is channel 3. You see that there? And we're trying to replace this again with Codfather gain. Codfather gain. Right, so now we got 0, 1, 2. So 2 is going to be the bass line, right? So save W. Okay, now we'll load that again. Alright, go back there. Let's play and demonstrate. Okay. I'm going to just take out the drums with the pad mode. So now I'm going to use the knobs to control, take out the instrumentation. Alright, you still have the vocal there. I'm going to cut the bass line. Alright. Making the bass line louder. Taking my vocal completely out. Completely quiet. Bring back the volume of the vocal. Instrumentation. Bass line. So what's great about this is obviously when you do the pad mode, sometimes when you cut the bass and drums, the volume of your vocals isn't as loud as you want it to be. There's a significant dropout. But when you use stem level EQ, you kind of can preempt that and use the trim knob to bring up the vocal or the musicality instruments. Okay, so bring back the drums. Okay, so we're going to do the last step here for this channel at least. So MIDI, filter, and I'm going to toggle the low end EQ on channel 3. Perfect. And then we go back to this thing. And then we're going to save that, restore default, then go back to the XML and look for our auto filter. Okay, so deck filter, there we go. This is our last assignment on this side, on this channel, for channel 1. We're going to move to channel 2 after that. So we got 0, we got 1, we got 2, now this is 3. For some reason, like I tried in the past to keep these in order so that I could keep track of where I am, but it just keeps, every time I save it, it keeps putting it in a different order. So initially I was trying to sort it by slot 0, 1, 2, 3, but just seems to randomize it. So now that we got that, save, close, go back here, load, and let's demonstrate again. Okay, so now I don't have to use the pad mode at all. I'm going to take the drums out with my low end knob. That's just the bass line there. Everything's down. Bring up the vocal. Right south. Not a lot of vocal there, but that's the musicality. Trim everything down. Bass line alone. Drums. You want to overdrive the drums? Make it louder. There you go. So there you have it. That's channel 1 assigned to channel 3 4-band stem level EQ. Okay, so what are we going to do now? we are going to do the same to the other side. Okay, so MIDI, filter, trim knob on channel 4, right? Perfect. And then we're going to save, restore defaults, back again to the XML file. And where we got, now we see channel 4 here. So channel 4, always look for channel 4 when we're doing this, okay? And then deck Codfather gain, and the slot ID is 0 because we want that to be the vocals, right? So take note of that, okay? Here we go back into Serato, and we load, and we're going to test and demonstrate that again. So right now on this side, I'm going to use pad mode to take off everything so we can hear the volume of, you can see me, although it's a very little vocal, it's coming in and out. Okay, perfect, that's working great. Now we're gonna rinse and repeat. Here we go for all the rest of the channels. Now if you think you got the gist of it, you could go and start doing this yourself, but here I am now. I'm using the highs, so filter. Alright, so we've toggled that to the high. Alright, perfect. Go settings. Gonna save. Restore defaults. Go over here. Get the stems tutorial. Look for the other channel 4. So we see the other channel 4 over here. Great. I'm gonna change that deck filter auto. Codfather gain. And now we change that to slot 1 because we want that to be our instrumentation on our pads. So, okay, load that up again and demonstrate. So I'm just using pad mode to remove the bass line and drums so that we can see what's going on here. And that's the instrumentation going away, vocal. Alright. Cool. Everything's working. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to the bass line. Filter. Okay, filter. Now we're going to use mid on channel 4. Okay. Sometimes it takes a good full twist to activate it, so don't be alarmed if you don't get it right away. So you got to give it a good twist. And then you can close MIDI, savings, press save, restore defaults. Then we go back to the XML file. Looking for channel 4's auto deck filter, right? So this is baseline. So what are we going to do for baseline? 0 is music, is vocal. 1 is the instrumentation, and 2 is baseline. So I'm going to say W. Okay, load that again and demonstrate. I'm going to use pad mode to just turn off the drums so we can see what's going on here. That's me cutting the bass line with a knob, overdriving it with a knob. Gonna cut everything off in terms of the vocals and music with the knobs. Now we've got the bass line there, assigned to my mid EQ on channel 4. Then that's it, me cutting it completely, bringing back the music and the vocal. Okay. All right. Bring back the drums there. Okay, so last one. MIDI. Filter. Use the low end on channel 4, give it a good twist, activate the low EQ on channel 4 to toggle the filter. Perfect. I'm going to go back here, gonna save, restore defaults, and do the last one. So we're looking for deck 4. Deck 4. You see how it's all kind of randomized in terms of order. Doesn't really follow any sequence here. I've tried sorting it manually and it didn't work, and just ended up confusing myself more. So slot 3 is actually pad 4. Gives you gain control with the EQ knob. So save, close, back to Serato, load, and there you have it. We should have all control of all stems right now. So using trim knobs to take out the vocals, using the high EQ on channel 4 to take out the instrumentation, mid, overdriving the bass line with mid, there you go. Now, lastly, drums. Boom. Now, both sides are working.
So there you go. That's how you take your Pioneer DDJ1000-SRT and give it a little bit more life by giving it the full power of stems. Not just having the pad control, but now you have 4-band stems level EQ.